Hi, everybody. This is Jose Palomino again, welcoming you to another episode of the Revenue Throughput Podcast. And our guest today is somebody who is really an expert on this whole area of entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial mindset. He's Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach, and let's welcome him to our show right now. Well, welcome, Jim, to the Revenue Throughput Podcast.
Hey, Jose, thanks for having me.
Well, Jim, one thing that's helpful, just context, and people who follow my show know I always start this way, which is simply, who do you serve and what do you do for them typically?
Entrepreneurs and small business owners, and that's an interesting topic you may go down because they're not always the same, right? Entrepreneurs really focus more on wealth creation, multiple streams of revenue. Small business owners tend to focus on growing their small business, and that's it. So entrepreneurs, I work with anybody doing 6 figures to 7 figures.
Okay.
If I really feel a connection with somebody, especially at this point in my life where at 63, it's interesting. I find myself looking backwards a little more than just forwards. So I've actually focused a little more on legacy. So, I mean, I've probably in the last 2 years, I've helped 3 people like get started, and get to their first 6 figures, but mostly in that, 100,000 to $500,000 range, and then helping them grow and expand and look for multiple streams of revenue.
Wow. So now you've identified, it's interesting, the dichotomy between the entrepreneur and the small business owner. Now, you could have an entrepreneurial small business owner.
That's right.
But you're really looking at somebody who's not just looking at operating the shop, but somebody who wants to take it to some next level. That's almost like, it sounds like that's the big idea, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I tell this story. I've done a lot of speaking before I moved on the boat, and certainly pre-pandemic. But I used to tell this story about how you could visualize. So imagine you run a jewelry store. You own a jewelry store. Maybe you're in a 1,200 square foot stall in your typical strip center anywhere in America,
Sure.
and you grow that to $1 million in revenue, which let's just assume that's above average. So right, the average jeweler may do, $600,000. And so you're packing in a few more cases, putting in some more high-end products, but you're bursting at the seams you can't do more than $1 million. A small business owner who owns that business, his next thought is what? I'm going to have to open another location and then, keep going from there. An entrepreneur would think, how can I create more wealth for myself, not just gross revenue? So he may say, well, I've done $1 million out of 1,200 square feet in a small town. Why don't I teach everybody who's struggling to do $500,000 how I was able to do that? So he may write a book, he may have a coaching program, he may start a mastermind, may some home study courses that could be down, you know what I mean? So he can take what his knowledge and skill and experience is and recognize it as an asset and capitalize on that asset while his $1 million business continues to run. So that's thinking a little outside the box. And again, multiple streams of revenue.
Right. Now let's play around with that jeweler idea for a moment.
Sure.
So the jeweler says, let's say you advise that jeweler, and I could easily visualize a certain kind of person and say, well, wait a second, I've cracked the code of going from the average of 600,000 to $1 million, which no one else has done. Why am I going to give that power, that ability, that insight to other people? Why don't I just keep that to myself?
Well, first and foremost, that kind of person is not likely to be somebody you're going to work with anyway, because that is very small-minded thinking, right? That's,
Okay.
that's the essence of a poverty mindset, meaning there's not enough business for everybody. If I help somebody else do well, it's coming out of my pocket, and that's nowhere near reality, right? So if you were to focus on people who have more of an abundant mindset, um, what's interesting, I've been coaching since 2009, Jose. I've helped more people start and grow existing business coaching businesses, which is my main income today, than anything. Because, I mean, it's funny. I got asked one time in an interview, well, I see you do all this thing. I said, yeah, if I thought that, it was such a closed market and everything I'm doing is going to help other people, my biggest problem would be my ego, because honestly, you can't serve everybody, you
Right.
know? It, just to tie a loop back to the first story I told you, what's interesting, I was pretty big in the Glazer Kennedy world, Dan Kennedy and
Okay.
Lee Miltier was a good friend of mine, or is a good friend of mine. And somebody that's in Lee Miltier's coaching group heard me on a Lee Miltier interview share that jeweler story. It so happens this guy owns a jewelry store in a small town in North Carolina. He became a client of mine. We branded him as Diamond Bill, right? Because I'm all about creating the brand. So Diamond Bill now has, in addition to a 7-figure jewelry store in a small mountain town, he has a 6+ figure mastermind, Diamond Bill's Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind. He has, I think, 52 jewelers across the country that pay
Wow.
him monthly, and he teaches them every month. And some of them pay an upgrade to talk with him one-on-one. It's a funny thing because Bill gives me credit. He just bought a boat. He's following in my footsteps. So he's like,
He's
Jim,
boarding right now.
that's right. He goes, man, I got to figure out how do I get somebody to run my jewelry store so I can spend more time in my boat. Because, when you're coaching, I coach 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My wife, Stephanie, and I will we're in travel mode Friday through Monday.
Okay.
So we can anchor out and things like that. But usually by Monday night, I want to be in a marina where I can be tied to a dock and have better Wi-Fi and run my coaching business Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's how I've set up my life. So it's kind of interesting that somebody heard my jewelry store story, which I've told countless times.
No, that's a great, and I love that story because it's something we can all relate to and visualize, right? So many of my listeners and the kind of customers or clients I work with would be slightly bigger industrial type businesses, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's a manufacturing operation or they provide an industrial service. So one reason I was excited in speaking with you today, Jim, is just the idea of a lot of them started with that entrepreneurial zeal to create something,
Yes.
right? And they kind of lost that mojo along the way. They're
Yep.
running a business, and it's like they have 50-person
Yes.
staff, and they have meetings with their accountant and lawyers and so on. So could you comment and just some thoughts around how to maybe capture that energy, that mindset back, even if you think like those days are gone?
It's a little hard to do for yourself unless something is motivating and pushing you personally. That's why it's so great to work with a coach, somebody who, as I say, sees through the fog of your current everyday putting out the fire, focusing what you're doing, somebody who sees opportunities, right? So what's interesting is, and I think it was in my book, Just Say Yes, one of the chapters is how to regain your childlike spirit. I think I just messed up the chapter, but it's pretty close to that. Because what happens when you become an entrepreneur or, you start a small business, it's like, you're so full of, I hope I can say piss and vinegar or something. You're so full of vim and vigor. We'll clean it up, right? But it's like balls to the wall. I'm doing this. I bet my house. I mortgage, I took my 401k, whatever it is go, 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 risk, 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 because you're building your business. Now, what happens is, and it's kind of, being a business owner mirrors, I think, ourselves, just for you and I as men, and certainly for women. Now you have kids, then you have a mortgage, and you start, you're not 20 anymore playing it loosey goosey. As a business owner, you suddenly have employees, you have rent, you have, again, perhaps mortgages, but you have a lot of responsibilities. So I think you become a little less, or actually more risk averse, right? You're not willing to bet the farm to go big. And I'm not even saying that's necessary, but for the most part, I think we slip into a comfort zone when we hit certain figures. When I started my business in 2001, I was coming off 18 months of unemployment. I had cancer during that time. I mean, my self-esteem and morale and my goals were like this big. I just wanted to get back to work, bring a little income into the family. Then when I hit my first 6 figures, I'm like, holy crap, I am on fire. Then, I kept going and going and going. And so we keep growing. But then you get to a certain point, and honestly, I've shared this on a few interviews, even, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when Stephanie and I moved on this boat. I'm like, we've done very well, been very blessed in our life. And I don't really want to, I don't want to double the size of my business, right? Our financial planner says, why don't you coach 4 days a week? You'd meet your retirement nut, that magic number you want to hit. You can do that even faster, because I don't want to. This is the life we love. We're doing fine. We're putting away. And so I think you have to be really, really clear on what your goals are, first of all, and then understand every business is cyclical, Jose. Every business has seasons, peaks and valleys, right? So you want to be able to ride the highs as much as you can, not only just put away for any day, but what's going to be your next, in the record business, you're only good as your last hit, right?
Right.
So I think what happens is if you coast too long on your success, things are going to change. Like whoever was in the buggy whip business or the typewriter ink business, right? If you were riding that and you didn't do anything to see what was going on in terms of automobiles or computers, you're out of business. So you do have to be forward thinking as well.
Well, and there's another aspect to that too. You talked about the risk aversion, which is
Yes,
understandable. Right now, I have like 30 mouths to feed, so to speak, payroll and so on. But the challenge is this: is that there's a fallacy that you can actually hold, that you can tread water indefinitely at level X.
that's right.
Because actually what ends up happening is, okay, you're complacent, or maybe you're not. You're working hard. Everybody's working hard, but you're kind of like not pushing. You're not taking those chances on a new product line, a new launch, a new market, a new customer. And so what inevitably happens is that big customer that used to be 30% of your business, all of a sudden you have that phone call that says, listen, unless you can give us, 15 points off what we used to pay you, we have to go another way because we found another supplier. And you
Right.
go, well, what about the love? What about all that loyalty? What happened? And it just happens. Who moved your cheese, to quote that old book
That's
title.
right.
So I always try to, when I counsel with these owners, I say you have to have some forward momentum. It may not be that zeal, like you said, of being in your 20s and anything goes. And yes, you have responsibilities, and you take very seriously that their families depending on payroll and so on. So you don't play with the house money necessarily. Put it all on black. But
Sure.
but you have to take some chances. You have to be willing to dare to do some things.
Yeah. So I'll share two things with you. One of them is I call it extreme motivation, because extreme motivation means most people, I think probably the vast majority of people are willing to do things, Jose, for other people or organizations, causes other than themselves. Great example. I used to have a death fear of public speaking. I knew that I could probably grow even faster as a speaker and then as an author who's out speaking, but I didn't want to do it. So while I was figuring out other ways to grow my business that didn't involve something that was uncomfortable to me, um, I could rationalize, because I was the business owner. It said right on my card, Chief President Muckety Muck, right? No,
Yeah.
kid about the Muckety Muck, but it was my business. I
Right.
wanted the freedom to make those. If I didn't have to go out and speak, but you know what? What happened is, somewhere around the third or fourth year of my business, I had four kids at the time when I start. Well, I still have four kids, but four kids at home. My twin girls, the youngest, were getting ready to go to college, and it had always been a dream of mine to help them pay for their college. I also knew someday they're going to get married. And boy, if you want to talk about what's more expensive than boating, have a daughter get married, right?
Have
And
twins.
and twins, and I couldn't talk him into a double wedding, doggone it. But what's interesting is suddenly my inability to overcome my fear of public speaking was impacting some people that I really loved and cared about.
Mm.
So, man, I did Dale Carnegie. I joined these different groups, organizations. I went to hypnosis. I did everything. Turns out I'm a good speaker. I actually enjoy it. I mean, I totally kicked that to the curb. I run my own live events, but I wouldn't do it for myself so much, but I needed to step up and crash through to help somebody else. So that's extreme motivation. The other thing is, so I'm working with a client right now who's a CPA, been in business like 35, 40 years. He's got a nice shop. It's him, his wife and daughter actually work there. And he's had different CPAs cycle through. They come and go. And I said to him, not his name, but I said, Bill, I said, you need to take on a partner, but make it an equity partner, because he's getting to the point where, he said, Jim, I could see in 5 or 6, 8 years, I'd like to sell my practice. Well, what would be easier than to take on a partner who can take some of the load you have right now, because he's the chief smart guy CPA
Right.
driver, and offload some of that to an equity partner. It's kind of like lease to buy, with a house
Sure.
or car. So do that. Find that perfect person who, because a lot of CPAs, they graduate, they hang out their shingle, and they starve, right?
Right.
Just like anybody else. So that if you're, to go all the way back to the beginning of your question, if you're in a manufacturer or something like that, maybe the thing is, if you feel like you reach a certain age, because I've never really met anybody that's 25, 35, 40, that's quite that, more calm and resolute with where they are. It's usually when you get to be my age. I don't know how old you are, but you look like you've started to think that way a little bit, right? since we're on camera, you know, and it's like, well, maybe if I was to do that, and I've helped a few people find partners like that. And what happens is it so reinvigorates their business. Because if, let's just say you're 55, you bring on a 40-year-old partner who's got that drive, and he's like, you know, we haven't even looked, there's an option in our business, or we haven't even gone after this kind of business, right? Maybe you serve the restaurant business, but let's go after catering, or let's go after whatever. So you go after a whole new side of business. The business grows. It's not all on the owner, who's getting a little more set in his ways and risk averse. And then next thing you know, you have somebody who can buy you out. So there's a lot of ways to do that.
And also make the journey in the ensuing years a lot more pleasant. Because the other thing with just the simple physical realities, as the miles add up on the odometer,
yeah,
we don't automatically become more vibrant, more energized, and feel better every day when we wake up in the morning. I mean, reality.
And we've all heard those stories of people who work. They finally get to whatever their accountant says they need, and in 2 weeks they have a heart attack on the first time they're playing golf or something, right?
Right.
So Stephanie and I said, 4 years ago, let's figure out a way. And when she was in a high stress job, when she left that suddenly was like cutting the cord on our location dependency. Because as long as I got Wi-Fi, we can travel up and down the coast. So that's when we started and said, let's figure out a way to live our current life. You still work, and we have this big adventure instead of waiting till 65, 68, 70, and God forbid cancer comes back or something. So it's really it's figuring out a way, especially if you're an entrepreneur. I get the fact that you want to have entrepreneurial freedom. You're the boss. You can do whatever you want, but don't just create a business that you own or a job that you own. Have that business be something that affords you the opportunity to live life on your terms.
And I think also it sounds like a big part here, and Jim, I'd just like you to comment on this. And not everyone can control this perfectly, because sometimes maybe you inherited a business and you depended on it and you're running it. But it also helps if you really like what you do.
That's true.
I mean,
and I love what I do. I mean,
right.
There's a point, so there's a few different ways I can describe my mantra, dream business. But one of the things is when what you do becomes more important than the paycheck. If you helped a doctor who's been struggling to pay off loans double the size of their practice, and they send you an email and says, Jim, I just bought my first new car. I'm 44 years old and I paid cash and I feel like a real badass, right? And that's and it's like, I know I get paid well for being a coach, but that if you're a coach, that's what you do. If you're a doctor, you help somebody get healthy. Whatever it is you do, if you do it really well and you change people's lives, it's okay to be handsomely rewarded and compensating for doing that. But the fact that you're making a difference in the lives of others, that's the real paycheck. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's not like in an example you gave. I mean, certainly your daughter's weddings, you were extremely motivated to make things happen. So I just wanted to contemplate that a little bit more, that extreme motivation, right? So that could be certainly very personal. That could be missional, like I really want to help these people find water in parts of the world where there's no water. That's my business model.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? So, or it could be just I want options at the I don't want to necessarily stroke out at my desk at the end of a long hard journey and just say that was it. He didn't work enough won't be on your tombstone. So so those things. So but what really got me about your story though, Jim, is how you were able to say, because I'm extremely motivated, you took very decisive steps to overcome what you identified was your hurdle.
That's right.
Right. So what's a good way for people to identify what's holding them back? I mean, some people are just stuck in a fuzzy cloud of, I'm not quite sure why things aren't working the way I'd like them to work. What are some questions you might ask somebody to say, well, let's identify what the thing is that's holding you back? Because once you identify it, you can then start planning how to dissolve it.
Again, working with somebody helps. But in reality, and here's the thing, you peel the onion back, you know what's holding you back. You shroud it in this cloud of, if I can just learn one more strategy, if I go to one more 3-day conference, if I can buy one more $2,000 home study course, if I can plug in one more $99 widget to my website, $100 bills will be spitting out of my monitor. It's all being in action, which you think makes you feel good. So it feeds a little part of your brain that's say, oh, I am busy. I'm in action. I'm working 80 hours a week. but in reality, you're not doing. If we have like 3 minutes, I'll tell a quick story.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I call it my most embarrassing moment as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years now. So in 2009, I had already started like 5 different successful online businesses, and that's when I started coaching. People started asking me, "How are you doing all that?" So that's when I started coaching. In great fanfare, I launched the Dream Business Mastermind. I had 6 people the first year, 9 people the second. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, it's good, but I wanted to grow. I joined a mastermind that was in California. I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. Had some pretty high-powered coaches in there. One person in particular was doing like $2.5 million. I mean, a rock star, walk on water in my eyes, coach, right? And so I flew out there, and I had some success I could talk about. So when it came my turn, I talked about my success, started my coaching business, what I want to do, and he just interrupted me and he goes, "Jim, I have a question for you. I'm aware you want to grow your coaching business. That's why you're in this group. I'm aware of what you're doing marketing wise to get your coaching business to the next level." But he goes, "But Jim, I'm also aware of what you're not doing. And the question I have is this." And so far, Jose, I'm thinking, oh, impart the knowledge on me. I had no idea what was coming. He goes, "How is it that you feel entitled to achieve the same level of success as me, maybe other people in the room, but you're not willing to do the things that were proven to get all of us to the next level? How does that work for you?" Jose, I'm sure I turned 50 shades of fire engine red, right? And this is the moment where I'm talking about, I should be writing books. I should be out speaking. I should be running my own events, right? Instead of trying to just speak on somebody else's stage because, you don't have to put out 20 grand to put on your own event.
Right.
All these different things. And that was the kick in the pants that I needed. I mean, it was a 5-hour flight home. I said, no, never again will somebody put the mirror to my face. And I recognized the problem is myself. In my book, Decide, I call it a 3 a.m. holy crap moment. And that is when you're laying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, your eyes are wide awake, it's pitch dark, and you're going, holy crap, I haven't paid myself in 2 months. I own the business. I'm a month behind in my rent. Holy crap, all these different holy crap moments. I said, at that point, you want to get up, go into the bathroom and look in the mirror. This is actually hard to do because, if we shave, we're kind of looking down here. Look yourself in the eye, in the mirror. I swear you see your soul or something. It's kind of weird. And say, why are you holding me back? Why are you so afraid to get to the next level? Why are you so afraid to get in front of a group of people and tell them what you do? And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you tie that to extreme motivation. But again, I'm telling you, if you want to get yourself in a mastermind or work with a coach, somebody who will hold your feet to the fire, right? There's nothing like having to report in what you've done since the last call, or you fly to another because I'll tell you, when we met quarterly, I was not going to go to another meeting without having made significant improvement. Otherwise I'd quit.
What's really great about that, Jim, was there was one question that just and it sat there and it was like a bomb. It blew up in your heart.
Smash that glass window and boom, there I was exposed, right?
Right.
And it was the best thing. It was the worst thing and the best thing. And part of it's why I'm a good coach today, because I've had my deals with money. I've had bad money mindset. I worked with a wonderful mindset coach that understood the relationship and why money is good and it's not evil. And I've had, people like that mentor that helped me. And so, yeah, you can do so much on your own. You can start the business and things like that. But seriously, one of the sayings in the coaching business, what got you to your first 6 figures is not what's going to get you to $500,000. What gets you to $500,000 is not what's going to get you to your first million. It's a different mindset every step along the way.
Wow. Well, and the good news is we can adapt and grow. And Jim, this has been a fantastic conversation, very exciting for me. So thank you so much for sharing with our audience here at the Revenue Throughput Podcast your insights. I really think on that entrepreneurial mindset. So really appreciate it.
Sure.
And safe travels.
Thank you. Yeah, we're still floating. We're on the right side of the water. So that's good.
All right. Take care.